I think the mindset is really like we want to peak at the end of the season. Like as Coach mentioned before, we have a lot of new guys, and we've kind of had some injuries to start the season. So our main goal is just to get better each game. And I mean, just like every game, I feel like we have a takeaway. Like we have one thing we want to improve that week, we improve it the next game, and then we kind of just stick with that. And I think if we keep with that kind of strategy, by the end of the season, we're going to be kind of dangerous, especially with all of our guys back. So that's kind of the goal right now, is just to find our weaknesses and kind of try to buffer those out and get ready for the end of the season. Man, like he mentioned, every game is a new challenge, and there's a lot of good players. So I mean, that's what you want as a competitor, and just as I guess, as a competitor, you would want to play the better teams, and every kind of week is a new challenge. And last year, I mean, our record wasn't as great as we would like it to be, but a lot of our games were very close games. And I think Coach touched on it, like every game is going to be close because every team is well coached, and a lot of the teams have older guys. So I think just that kind of aspect of it is really fun, the game planning and kind of the sportsmanship mentality of it. But yeah, it's fun definitely having the type of competition we have in the SoCon. Well, we definitely had more time to prepare compared to last year, and just having those extra months and all those extra practices, we kind of see the payoff in these close games. And we always talk about in practice, like last 4 minutes of practice, who's going to push through it, who's going to give up. And that's kind of a mentality that we have, is we have to be tougher in the last 4 minutes. And as we can see in the close games, we've come out on top. So I think as we continue to do that and just keep doing that in practice and pushing each other, we'll be all right. But I feel like we have to come in kind of with that underdog mentality and just kind of assume that they think they're going to win because they're part of a Power 5 and we're kind of an outsider coming in. Especially with Oregon State, we kind of felt like, or at least personally, I felt like they weren't playing as hard, especially to start the game. They kind of felt like, oh, we're down now, but we'll come back. And I mean, I think as we kind of stick together and we start beating these bigger teams and just getting better as the season progresses, these teams are going to have to respect a little bit more. But we have to just go in there and just fight and claw like we're 30-point underdogs, even if we're favored. And that's for any game, especially in our conference. Every team's going to be pretty tough, so we just got to be prepared. Well, it's great. I mean, I feel like everyone is friends on and off the court. It's not like one of those things where, all right, guys, practice is over. I'll see you guys, tomorrow. Everyone kind of hangs out, and seniors, freshmen, everyone's friends on the team, so that helps. And then also just our playing style is a lot of people are, fast paced, so we have a lot of subs coming in and out. So we're used to playing with all different types of players. So I mean, I don't think there's one person I haven't played with in a lineup, whereas some teams might keep it starters, non-starters, and kind of keep the team separate, which I think is a major advantage because we've all played with each other, and I think as the season progresses, we'll even have more chemistry going forward.
I would say the biggest thing would be accountability. I feel like accountability is always something that is stressed to players. It's always one of those things like you should hold each other accountable, you should do this, you should do that. I feel like that's always been stressed here, but I feel like it didn't really fully come into play, and you see action where people are actually holding each other accountable, and Coach does a really good job of doing what he says he's going to do. I feel like when Coach got here, it was just a huge culture shock to people. I feel like if you were an underachiever, it was uncomfortable for you, and you didn't know how you were going to fit this style of play. So it was probably scary for most people, but I just knew watching him coach in high school and kind of what his program's always been about, that I knew accountability was really going to be stressed here. In order for us to be good, I knew that's what we needed. So it was always it was good to get out there and just know that if you played your heart out and you really just done what the coaches were asking you to do, it was never complicated. It was just always, I need you to play hard, I need you to be here, I need you to do that. Things that you should be expected to do as a college athlete. And I think the biggest thing is accountability that he has shown, holding players accountable and bringing the true greatness out of each and every player. So that's been the biggest change and the biggest, I feel like, need for the program. So I knew when I heard he got the job, I knew things were going to be different as structure, how we were going to play. I knew it was going to be a lot faster, and I knew watching him through high school, the kind of players he developed, that things were going to be different and going to be difficult. We might not have the most talent all the time, but I knew we were going to have guys that wanted to be here and wanted to really work, because I feel like Samford's just been used as like a a step for people to get to a higher level, that maybe they want to go somewhere else, so they use this as a place to kind of build their stats and, you know, worry about them. And I feel like you're never going to be good if you have those guys on the floor that are just always worried about getting theirs, instead of working on people next to them. And one of the greatest players that I've played with that he brought in was Jermaine Marshall. I mean, you've seen how good he's been for us just because he never quits. And I wish you could have seen some of the practices we had over the summer where, I mean, there was literal blood on the floor because guys were just going so hard. And Jermaine's honestly like having another coach out there. I mean, he just pushes everyone and brings the best out of everyone, and it brings other guys up to be vocal and do things that they never thought that they could do. So I think that's just the biggest thing. You know, you hear it all the time, iron sharpens iron, and that's what we try to do every day. And I know it hasn't been a result of what we're going to be like. I know we've had some close calls on some teams that we probably should have blew out of the gym, but like Coach said, we've won those games. And in the past, if you notice, we've never really won those close games. It's always been really close, and then we kind of lose at the end of the game with, you know, maybe a dumb mistake or something that, you know, we just hadn't prepared for. But every day they put us in situations to make us uncomfortable so that we can excel in those close games and win those games. And you see it in our record. So, and the 2 games we lost, I mean, that's not a representation of us either. I mean, it's just one of those things where we come back to the drawing board and we're like, you know, we really lacked our focus in this game, and you can tell it, because regardless of the way you shoot and the way you play, you should still win those games if you're a solid team, you know, and you don't fold, you know, on defense, and you run your stuff. So I think that's been the biggest thing with him, is just bringing in guys that push us to be the best that we can be. So. Well, I think Samford's one of those teams that probably for a little bit, for at least going forward, is going to be always called the underdog, just because everyone, when they hear Samford basketball, they know we've been accustomed to losing. And I think they just always think we're an easy, you know, pushover game. I think, you know, watching the guys when we went to Oregon State, I think Oregon State thought they would show up and we would just roll over, and that's not the case, because before the game, I know Coach, I talked to him, he said I could see it in our guys' eyes, we were going to win that game just because we showed up, we were ready to go, we had something to prove. So I feel like it's always going to be a thing that, you know, we're predicted to lose. We're always the underdog. But I mean, we all love it. We go out there with a chip on our shoulder, and we're ready to just kind of shock the world any chance we can. And we may come up short, but one thing you'll never see from our team is no fight at the end of the game. Like, we're never going to give up. So I think that's just a huge thing. When you're an underdog, it just gives you an opportunity to kind of go out there and overcome all the hate, I guess you would say.